Next, the task force, the UAP task force.
This task force was created in 2020 in response to sudden public interest in UFOs. There was sudden public interest in UFOs because of viral news stories promoted by this group of UFO believers. In charge of this new Pentagon task force was Jay Stratton, one of the members of this group, and former Skinwalker Ranch ghost hunter during the AAWSAP program. Stratton's chief scientist on the task force was Travis Taylor, another Skinwalker Ranch ghost hunter and star of pseudoscience reality shows like Ancient Aliens and The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Stratton brought into the task force various paranormal enthusiasts. According to sources, the task force missed multiple incursions of Chinese spycraft over America for years because the task force was instead chasing spooky UFOs. But in Kirkpatrick's report, the UAP task force only gets 2 little paragraphs. And those paragraphs basically only talk about how great and successful the task force was. Zero mention of the paranormal stuff. In the same report, AARO goes into great detail about how this group was wasting taxpayer money chasing paranormal things in the AAWSAP program. But when members of the same group get put in charge of yet another program, there are zero mentions of it. This report was supposed to reveal all those details, but here it doesn't. I brought this up to Kirkpatrick.
Next, the task force, the UAP task force. Did some of the same individuals involved in AAWSAP go on to lead in or work on the UAP task force?
So to my knowledge, when I came in at Stood Up AARO, the task force had only 3 full-time people on it. And everybody else that was tapped across the community, the IC or the DoD, weren't full-time members of the task force. They would support with data and information when asked, but I think that was about it. And those 3 people live in the Pentagon.
Okay, notice how he didn't answer my question here. So I ask him again.
Right. Did former AAWSAP people involved in the AAWSAP program, were they involved, at least initially, with the UAP task force?
I believe so.
He finally answers, yes.
Yes. How does that happen? Who put them in those roles?
No idea.
Okay. Are you aware that, you mentioned some of the third parties that came in. Are you aware that some of those third parties that the UAPTF brought in were a number of people with fringe beliefs like ghost hunters and psychics, and they were brought in to be analysts?
I was not part of and don't know anything about how they ran the task force. I was actually out in Colorado during all that.
Okay. But during your AARO historical report, you didn't see any of that information?
I think the rest of that part of the review will come in volume 2.
Oh, really? So there's more on the task force coming in volume 2?
I don't know for certain. I'd have to direct you back to AARO.
Okay, so he's saying that maybe all the wacky, crazy stuff about the task force will come out in a new forthcoming report.
Like I said before, the intent was everything we had by the cutoff date for volume 1 is in volume 1. And then anything that we missed or anything that they want to add in there, they will put in volume 2. So
okay, because just for an outsider like me, amateur researcher, from the outside, it looks like, I read your report, I see your on-record statements, and you're like, man, this group has just been telling tall tales and, and taking advantage and pushing their stuff and inappropriately spending money. And then I see that same group involved with the UAP task force, and I see them more or less doing the same exact thing all over again. You would think that after AAWSAP and the Pentagon goes, oh my God, what is this group doing? That they would be the last people in charge of an official task force after that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, I don't know who made those decisions. What I do know is when I was asked to come in and the task force was officially stood down, I started from scratch.
I'm not satisfied with this answer, but Kirkpatrick only gave me 30 minutes for the interview, and I didn't feel like eating up more time.